Well, as you can see, the judges and coaches are coming out. There are the athletes appearing from the field of play. They have a little walk down the 50-meter range. I'm Karen Bashir. It's my pleasure to bring you this live coverage from World Archery. And joining me is Chef Vandenberg. Chef, exciting session to look forward to.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see all this. I'm looking forward to all of the matches, to be frank.
Well, Chef, a Olympian from Tokyo, took the decision to retire. That's to our advantage because he's going to give us our expert opinion. Mixed team bronze medal match here from the 2022 European Championships coming up right away between Belgium and Turkey. The athletes have made it to the shooting line. Let's go down for their introductions.
On target number 1, representing Belgium, Sarah Briels and Quinten van Looy. On target number 2, representing Turkey, Yesin Bostas and Emirkan Hani. The line judge for this match is Klaus Lückebeck.
Well, there we have it. Athlete introductions done. Belgium line up with Sarah Priels and a relative newcomer, certainly for me at least, Quinten van Looy, who's just 19 years old. Perhaps a little bit more familiar with this Turkish team. Yesin Bostan on the left, well, number 13, teaming up with Merican Hani, the 21-year-old. One word, Turkey or Belgium?
I'd have to say Turkey, just because of the team matches that we've seen today.
Well, there we have it. Chef Vandenberg, the Dutch archer, now retired, fancies the team who are going to start this bronze medal match off. Yesin Bostan and Merican Hani on the shooting line, going for a medal here at the European Championships. Just outside the 10, but a sighter. These first arrows really giving the athletes an idea of the conditions. Well, stadium announcer is convinced that first arrow is in the 10 ring. I wonder if we're going to have a measure in this very first end.
10.
Quinten is still relatively young and has recently really upped his game, I think. I don't recall seeing him on the big stage before, but this year he's showed himself suddenly, and yeah, for good reason. I think he's shooting really well.
Certainly is. Crowd just building up here in Munich. Cracking shot from Boston.
Yeah, the first arrow might have been up to a measure, but the second one is definitely in. Interestingly, both of these Turkish archers were clean in the team matches. So if it is a 9, it would be the first 9 of their...
Just as you say it, they've shared the responsibility, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so earlier on today, the men's and women's team matches went on. This is the first time we've seen both Van Looy and Priels, though, on the shooting target, and a 9 for them. Have conditions changed at all, Chef? Has the wind picked up?
No, it doesn't seem like it's too windy. There is a lot of people sitting with umbrellas in the stands, and they don't seem to be holding them too tightly, so I think it's not too bad. A very solid shot.
Well, a definite 39 for the Belgian team. We're going to have to just wait for that first arrow to be confirmed.
Nach der ersten Passe zwischen Belgien und Türkei. Hochklassiges Match.
Yeah, you mentioned the umbrellas as we just wait for the confirmation of the scores. The umbrellas seem to be there for the sun rather than the rain.
Yeah, it's a nice change to have umbrellas for the sun in a European tournament. Typically,
I think here in Munich in particular this week. I mean, it's been
Yeah.
so wet this week.
yeah. So I think it's nice that people came prepared for rain, because now they also have some shelter for the sun.
Very close up of Sarah Priels there. A lot of communication going on between the two.
Yeah, which is important, especially seeing as the circumstances may change, and it's good to know if you're adjusting for something or just aiming in the middle, and if your arrow is, as we say, hitting behind the pin. So you have a side pin in your scope as a compound archer, and yeah, you can see it here. This particular scope has a dot. Some scopes have a pin. And you say you want your arrow to hit behind the pin if the circumstances are clear and not windy.
Someone is definitely listening to you in the truck, because they're showing you these pictures just as you talk about them, adding some level of detail. There is the peeps on Sarah Pill's string.
It's a really good shot, this.
Well, we've had the scores confirmed as 39 apiece after the first end, so Bostan will shoot again for Turkey at the start of the second.
That's a perfect tap.
So what can Van Looy do to match Turkish first two arrows? Look at that shot.
Yeah, he's pleased with that as well. He was happy. So interestingly, both of the women are clean so far, and both of the men have missed one. Missed as in shot a 9.
Yeah, they haven't quite missed the target. Line breaker there for Bostan. Looks like it's just gone left, Chef. Would you say that's a 9?
Yeah, I think there was a clear yellow bit between the arrow and the line. So it's interesting to see that both the Belgian archers have 2 side rods on their setup. So on a compound bow, because you have let off, you don't have as much holding weight when you're all the way pulled back. And typically that means that you have only one side rod to counter the weight of the sight and the arrow rest. But both Sarah and Quinten have 2 side rods, so they might have more weight on one side than the other, but it does give you the opportunity to have a bit more stability in your bow. But it also it's more susceptible to catching some wind.
The actual supposed stabilizer rods can actually affect the movement of the bow, because what they create.
Yeah, they catch wind. Yeah, so pretty much anything that you have on your bow will catch a certain amount of wind, and stabilizers are mostly the most sticking out of the bow. They catch a lot of wind, and because they are extended, you get a lot of torque in the bow if it's windy. I don't think today that's much of an issue, because it seems like there's not much wind. But it's definitely something that you think about.
Were you talking about let-off earlier on? Here's perhaps an
Yeah.
opportunity to talk. What's he mean by let-off?
Now you can see that that wheel is not completely round, and when pulling back a compound bow, typically you have like 70 or 80% of the draw weight go away when you pull the bow back past a certain point. So that makes it easier to hold the bow and aim. So that's why compound archers typically hold a bit longer than recurve archers. Yeah, and it makes it just easier on the shoulders to keep it pulled back.
And it's that very mechanical aid that means that the compound arrows fly just that little bit faster than the recurve arrows. Well, it is Bostan stepping up first. I think that there was actually a measure going on there, potential 9 for Turkey, but it has been confirmed as a 10. So we're all square at 78 apiece, halfway through this bronze medal match.
She's just on the money. So here you can clearly see what I was talking about earlier, that he has 2 side rods hanging down there. And you can see his left rod has more weight on it than the right one. So he does have his bow balanced, but he has more weight in the back and a bit of a different setup than what's typically used on a compound bow.
We've got ourselves another belter here. Absolutely nothing between these two teams.
I think she knew that that arrow was going to be low when she released it. You could definitely see some bow kwando going on, but maybe not enough. But it's also very difficult with a compound bow to still correct your shot when it when the release goes off, because it all goes so quick.
Well, first they followed each other in there. Hani following in Bostan into the same position.
Yeah, there's this phenomenon. You have magnification in your scope. If you have a certain group or an arrow that is not centered, your eye automatically wants to draw to that point in the target. If you're experienced and you're good at aiming, you don't really suffer from it, but it can be that if there is a dark spot in the target, that you automatically kind of aim there as like a subliminal thing.
Yeah, well, that's very understandable. Now you can see on the scoreboard that the second line of Turkey, their last arrow in that third end, has been marked for a measure. It wasn't quite as potentially obvious as the last end, but we did see that star, so there is going to be a measure. Potentially this pairing here could have the lead.
I think they do, but obviously it's all up to the target judge. He has a much better vantage point than we do.
So it does. So the 2 9s from Turkey potentially could mean that we have got our first difference between the two teams. You get a good look at the end of the arrows now. That's where the string goes in.
It's the knock, as they call it, and in this particular case, he's checking if the vanes are still all attached. Sometimes if you're shooting in different weather circumstances, and you shoot a lot in tight groupings, your vanes might come loose, and you don't want that to happen in mid-flight because the arrow will not hit the target mostly. So it's important that if you get the arrows back from the runner, that you check all of the components, so the knock isn't cracked, the vanes aren't loose, there's no cracks in the shaft. So you just do a quick inspection to prevent shooting a miss, essentially.
Well, thank you to the director for showing us the knock and then it going into the string, and then for you, Chef, to explain how important it is. we start the fourth and final end.
She's led by her little mascot.
Turkey shoot first with their mascots, but now needing them as lucky charms because it has been confirmed that they did shoot 2 9s in the last end. So Belgium with the advantage.
2 X's, 20.
It's a bit of a longer hold than the earlier arrows, but yeah, he seems really solid. He's kind of leaning into the shot and just waiting for it to go off, not forcing anything, and it's a bit different than Sarah's technique. She's really forcing the arrow in there, as you will. So it's a bit of a different style, but it's not really better or worse than the other.
Yeah, as you guys always say, it's each to their own. You've got to do what works for you. But as you can see now, with just 2 arrows left, and well, just 1 now for Turkey, the teams are all square. Olympic champion Mele Gassos there cheering on his compound teammates. Well, what a way to finish on a 40 for Turkey. They have set, well, a target that can be reached, but only with 2 10s. Oh, and that is the medal gone. And this, for me, Chef, is the hardest shot in archery. You know that you can't do anything about it, but you've still got to go through your process.
Yeah, and on the one hand, it's the hardest. On the other hand, it's the easiest. You just have to enjoy your last moments on the finals field before congratulating your opponent. And yeah, just looking back at it and trying to see what you could have done better.
Well, see what you could have done better. And what a way there for Turkey to do that. They've come from 1 point behind going into the final end, and Bostan and Hani have stolen the bronze medal here in Munich.